So this is just going to be the unboxing and initial impressions of the MST CMX kit. So this is not a build video, this is just open the box, have a look at everything, and just give you my first impressions. The box itself, it's actually pretty compact and small. It's a bit details on the box, obviously. You've got your assembled truck here, kind of your branding, and includes the drive shaft and links needed to change the wheelbase. So this truck, you can adjust in 3 different wheelbases right here. For my project, it's going to be the 242, because my body is going to be a 242 millimeter wheelbase. Compared to your standard cross, so this is a 12.3 wheelbase. This is the Proline body I did earlier. This is the body which is going to go on the new MST project car. As you can see, it's quite a bit shorter. It's about at least 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Obviously this is just a kit, so you're going to need your ESC motor, receiver, whatnot. Here you've got more features, your ladder for steel frame chassis, 40-degree steering angle, and kind of metal gears in the spools and the axles, but plastic gears and plastic axles everywhere else. It does look like it comes with an aluminium motor plate, which is very nice. So a little kind of reason as to why I chose this rig in particular. So there's 2 rigs which is the exact same size. So there's the CMX and a CFX. The CFX has the motor mounted in front and up higher, or the CMX is the older version of the truck, and it has the motor mounted in the middle. And I obviously prefer this setup because you get your center of gravity much lower, and the weight bias in front, you can easily just put your battery up further and you can get the same result. And this layout is very familiar. It's basically like a SCX10 or 1 because of the arrangement of transmission and also the servo on axle setup. So opening the box. So first you've got your wheels and tires. So you've got your, these are just plastic rims. Let's open it and have a quick look. So these are just plastic rims you'll need to glue your tires on, and these are just some really soft foams. These foams feel, it feels all right. It's gonna be, you wanna run kind of really soft foams or even no foams in this setup because the truck itself is gonna be incredibly light. You've got your kind of just molded plastic rim. I think it looks really nice. I think this style of rim is gonna go brilliantly with the Defender. That's the body I've chosen for this. So you get 4 of the wheels, obviously, and in this bag you also get your serrated wheel nuts, and I'm guessing those are the pins for the hex hub, but we'll see. Next up are the tires. These are some very nice scale looking tires. The tread is, I think, very, very nice. This should work very well on rocks, maybe not so much on mud because the spacing between the treads, but for rocks I think this is going to be fantastic. It also looks, I think, absolutely fantastic with this. It looks very, very scale. So obviously here you've got your the measurements, so 1.9 tires, 30 millimeters by 90 millimeters. So compound wise, it's decently soft, but not quite as sticky as you'd like them to be. This tread and the compound, I'm sure it will be long lasting, but personally I don't think it'll be a performance compound, but I think the looks kind of make up for it. I think this tire looks absolutely fantastic. Next up, we've got 2 more bags. The frame rails itself. This is a stamped steel ladder frame, judging by the weight of it. Very nice and strong. And obviously you have your instruction manual and decals. I'm just going to start with the first bag. And this is bag A. says right here. It's just taped on, nothing to cut, which is nice. So this is all the contents of bag A. You've got your links, all your links and ball ends. They're all plastic, obviously. They are kind of adjustable, so you thread these little set screws into the links and the rod ends themselves. Here's obviously the axle housings. This looks to be the rear because this has got the lockout. So this is a kind of split axle construction, which is again very similar to the SCX-10-1. Personally, I don't really like this type of axle construction because it could bend and kind of, if you're under a lot of torque, it could possibly kind of, the gears could skip teeth because how it's put together, it could flex and, you know, the gears could move apart. I much prefer, you know, like the AR60 construction where you have one solid kind of molded axle with the axle tube going all the way through and then a diff cover. But I think for the weight of this vehicle, this will work just fine. So bag 3 here, we've got our kind of transmission case, obviously. Got your spur gear cover and the spur gear cover plate, the transfer case itself, and the internal gears, which is all plastic, and also the spur gear. And one other thing to note is this kit does not include a slipper clutch. I think a slipper clutch is a optional part. I'm not sure, but you know, not too big of a deal on a crawler. So here you have your axles. So these are just regular slider shafts and your screws for mounting the axles. And these screws, I'm not entirely sure what they're for, but we'll look into that obviously when we build the trucks. Body posts, front and rear. I'm not quite sure what this is, but we'll find out probably. Next on to this bit, which is all the hardware and the molded parts which go onto the frame rail. So you've got your obviously your center skid. You've got your front and rear braces, chassis braces. You've got your that's the rear bumper. Oh, there you go. Your wheel hexes are here. So it also comes with tools, obviously. Probably wouldn't recommend using all these tools because you know, not sure what quality of steel that is, but that's probably gonna strip pretty quickly. You've got double-sided tape and kind of foam tape here. You've got your shock oil. This looks to be oil-based oil, so not like a nice silicone stuff, so I'm probably gonna skip on that. Black grease, which is basically, you know, your moly grease or lithium grease. Got your little wrench and also a little kind of hex socket wrench, which is interesting. Usually most kits come with a cross wrench, but I guess MST does things slightly differently. And also your body clips, obviously. Into bag B, again taped, and this is all the contents in it. So you've got your front axles, and the same construction, obviously. These hubs seem to be fairly sturdy. The plastic doesn't seem super flexible. Here we've got the battery tray. So these are the kind of rubber bands that hold the battery in place. You've got your receiver box and the front bumper here. Here you've got your rear axles. Obviously this truck comes only with bushings and no bearings, as I said earlier. And yeah, this looks to be the rear axle. And you have your, this is all the center transfer case stuff. So you've got your top shafts, your bushings, your screws, E-clips, and also obviously most importantly, you can see the aluminium motor mount in there, which is a very nice inclusion. Here are the front drive shafts for the axles. This is a CBD design, which is a nice design, but they retain the CBD kind of shaft with these spring clips, which I'm not a big fan of. But you know, we'll see how they go. So yeah, again, brass bushings, there's no bearings included, some hardware obviously. Hardware wise, I think all of it is hex, which is nice to see, with the exception of this single screw. Well, not single, but these 4 screws, which are kind of shoulder screws for your knuckles, so your front axle steering. So, you know, that's interesting. I don't know. And it's also not so good that it's self-tapping. You always kind of want machine screws, even though if you tap them into plastic, machine screws grip much better, and also it's less prone to stripping out, and it's just better for an RC because you'll be assembling it, disassembling it for cleaning. You know, you've got your shocks obviously. You also get 3 different sets of springs, which is very nice. They're obviously just your basic plastic bodied shocks. They're not threaded, so they'll have to use preload spacers, metal shock shafts obviously. And then obviously finally we've got our extra drive shafts. These are for your extended wheelbases. So one of them is for your 252, and the long one is obviously for your 267 millimeters wheelbase, and you obviously get a extended rear drive shaft. And obviously your manual, I'll get into this after the build. Yeah, that's pretty much it. To conclude, this is basically a whole pile of stuff that comes with the MST CMX 1/10 scale crawler kit. From my initial look, I think this truck will end up looking very well. Performance wise, I think it'll be fine. Just 2, I think, main things that I'm slightly worried about. First of all is the inclusion of self-tapping screws. I really don't like them because the more you take them apart and put them together, things are going to strip, especially when it's going to plastic. And second of all are the bushings. I have actually got some bearings that will replace these, but I don't see them as that big of a problem as such, because this is a pretty light truck and you're not going like a million miles an hour. So, you know, I think the bushings will do fine, but I'm going to swap them out as soon as I can. But yeah, other than those 2 things really, well actually 3, the axle construction, I don't really like the style, but I think this will work just fine. But yeah, the 2 main things are the self-tapping screws and the bushings. I'm actually more worried about the self-tapping screws honestly than the bushings, because this is on like a major kind of moving point, these shoulder screws. It's kind of like the Wraith when it first came out, the Wraith RTR I think. When it first came out, the steering, the screws that hold the knuckle onto the axle itself were self-tapping shoulder screws, and they really like to undo themselves and you'd lose them. And obviously that's kind of the end of your run if you lose them. So I'm going to look into replacing them, possibly some sort of machined screw with a brass or whatever sleeve I could find that'll fit. But that's basically it. This is the quick look and unboxing of the MST CMX. I think this is going to be a very fun and interesting build, and that's all. Thanks for watching.